Hello everyone, it's Vel here. Today we're going to be decorating our little cabin in the woods. We're going to be creating a little mountain and forest around our house right here. So go ahead and get cozy and let's get started. To start off, we're going to go ahead and start building up the back cliffs. I try and cover the whole area behind the house to kind of give that mountain vibe. That way you kind of feel like you're surrounded by the forest and the mountains. And as you notice, my house was kind of sunken into the ground. I went ahead and actually built up the cliffs around it. It was on the first tier, but we went ahead and did that and kind of created this little circle for the house to be on, and I felt like the mountains and the forest would be the perfect way to surround it. So we'll go ahead and build this up like I said. And I wasn't entirely sure for what I wanted to do for the areas surrounding the cabin and the mountains, so I just kind of went ahead and built like just the size I needed for decorating for the cliffs, and I'll figure out how to incorporate it into my island later on. I may want to continue the third tier, or I may just want to have like some woods back there or something like that. But as we get to the edges, I wanted to curve the cliff around to kind of continue on with that closed-in feeling of the mountains. So you see me curving it a little bit and continue to build it up. And I'm going to need you to ignore the fact that the cliff drops off right there. I'll fix it later on, I swear. At some point, just not for this video. But as you see, I am continuing to go ahead and build up the terraforming, and since I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with the shaping later on, I'm just curving the edges for now and kind of going with a shape that I think I would like for the time being. We'll move on to the other side now. And I did have a little bit of an idea of what I wanted to do for the shape of the cliff already. So that's why you kind of don't see me changing too many things with it. I did change a few, but not too much. It definitely took a lot of trial and error. And I just want to remind you that it's always going to take trial and error. So no worries if you get frustrated or anything. It definitely happens to all of us. And we'll go ahead and get a quick little view of how it's looking so far. I did choose like a little viewpoint that I wanted to kind of base the build around. And I'm going to keep returning there. That way I can see how it's turning out and if I'm happy with the area. It's also right by the entrance down to the cabin. So I think it is a good area to kind of judge things based off of. But now that we got our cliffs built up, we're going to go ahead and start decorating. The items that I'm going to use for this build are going to be the mountain sandies, some vines, some of the cedar trees in the smaller stages, some weeds and moss, and then the dormant volcanoes. I'm really excited to use this new item. I know at first I was very unsure about it. I gave mine away. I got one. Well, I bought it because I was like, oh my God. Is new. And then I gave it away to my friend. And then I was like, oh my gosh, is there a winter version? And I thought about doing like some mountains, and this island is something that I'd like to keep all year round. So I love the fact that there is ones for each season. I think that is so cute. But as we mix in the trees and the sandies and the volcano, we're just going to see what works. And again, keep coming back to that original angle to see how the view looks from there. You see, I'm going to use the vines a lot. I use them on the cliffs to kind of blend in the brownness of the cliff into like the white of the mountains and everything, just to blend it together and get the colors to match a little bit more. And then you see me use one tiny little cedar tree. It looked perfect there. I probably should have used some more, but it didn't happen. This is just the only one. But I do enjoy how it worked. And then we're going to continue the mountains a little bit out to the left. And as you get to one point, you're going to see that you don't see them as much, but I still wanted to go ahead and work the island to be together. And that way I would know how to blend it a little bit easier later on instead of having to continue decorate then. And we're gonna go ahead and place the pathing underneath the volcanoes. I think it adds a lot to the area, and it adds a lot of detail because since they are round, there's those corners that are showing, and it just adds that little bit of extra detail that is needed, and you can always bring it out a little bit to add even more of that. And these volcanoes are really hard to place. I swear it's not me. Now that we've gotten some items placed, I kind of decide that I want to change the cliffs a little bit, which I definitely recommend doing as you go. It may give you a better idea of what you want. And then we'll go ahead and go up to the top and start working on the third tier. We're gonna use the sandies and the volcanoes, of course, continue on with the pathing underneath the items, and go ahead and get all of these placed down. I did kind of create something symmetrical just so the sides would look a little bit similar. I think some of the placements a little bit different, but besides that, they're pretty much the same. And we're gonna go and see how the view looks. And I love how they look up on that top tier. And I definitely try to stagger them. That way they're not all in a line to create that kind of mountain feeling. And that way it's just not like one line, it's kind of spread out in like a little mountain range. And here we go with the symmetry down here. I go ahead and just place some vines and some weeds behind the house just in case anybody sees it, you know? No tile left behind, as Sparksby says. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then I sprinkle in some of the moss. I decide that is where I want these volcanoes, so we go ahead and pick them up and put down the pathing underneath them. I kind of stick to the same shape for the ones up here just because you can't see it as much. I don't imagine too many people are going to be up behind my cabin. And the volcano that is directly behind my house, I don't think you'll actually be able to see, but again, I just did that in case you get different angles of it, and to keep that symmetry so that one's kind of focused in the middle. Let's go ahead and start grabbing some trees to use up top as well. I have to say, I really liked how these trees looked, and I even felt like they kind of filled out the volcano tops to make the mountains into a little peak. Like if you see that one in the middle right there, I don't know if you can, but to me it looks like a little mountain peak, and I think it's so cute. We're gonna go ahead and place down the trees in between, and they are something that I again looked at from the far away angle, but I did test it out beforehand. That's why you don't see me running over there. And I liked the placement that they were in, and I placed them kind of behind the volcano because of how they looked from the distance rather than up close. And we'll just kind of go ahead and mirror the other side a little bit and use the wrong tree, of course. What else would we do? I don't know how I ended up with this large tree in my pockets. Oh my goodness. But okay, let's go get some little trees. And there we go. That is much better. A little bit more appropriately sized. And now we're going to start blending in the bottom a little bit. I decided to get that large tree out of my pockets before I use it again. And I did want to try and blend the outside areas with the large tree and then eventually the full-grown cedar trees. That's something I'll probably do later on, but I figured we could go ahead and place one kind of outside of the view. That way we would know to do that later on. We're going to start mixing in some bushes. The bushes are so pretty in winter. Oh my goodness, I'm obsessed with them. And I didn't really like the way that looked actually with the bush there in the mountain sandy. I didn't like how it lined up, so we're gonna go ahead and move it over and then place everything back down, and we cannot forget our little snowy pathing. I will continue on to try and blend this area together. I did want to put a tree down, so we go ahead and tear down that little piece of the cliff. I think I had this piece of the cliff different since I just moved everything over. That's why I had to make some adjustments. And we'll see how it's coming along, and I'm really enjoying it so far. We'll go ahead and add some extra vines, see if that looks a little bit better. And then add in some more details of the bushes and the vines, of course. And then I decided that I wanted another volcano right here to kind of hide the cliff edge right there. And you actually can't see that volcano, but I wanted to try and include it a little bit more. So we'll see how it looks pushed over to the left. I decide I don't want it quite all the way over, but we'll go ahead and change the pathing in a second. I wanted to add in a vine right there to go ahead and blend in those cliffs a little bit more. You'll see here lots of trial and error with the pathing. I wanted to make sure the snow did stick out more from the volcano than it was. And we just moved it a little bit of a half tile over, and I decided to go look for something that would be good in that area right there to kind of blend it in with the grass. And I decided the grass sandy is the perfect item. You see, you can put it almost everywhere and it takes up so little room. It's just a wonderful item. Now we'll go ahead and add a few more trees and work on the top a little bit more. Again, we're bringing the volcanoes out to the right some more, to the outskirts. And then using our trees and just trying to blend in this last little bit of the area. We'll go see how it looks now that we've placed those items, and I decided I didn't quite like that mountain standee. I didn't like how it covered or surrounded the volcano on the bottom tier. I felt like it didn't look right. So I wanted to move it over, that way it could kind of be more like its own separate mountain, and I think that placement looks a lot better. So we're gonna go ahead and work with that and see what we can do. And now it's time to go on to the bottom tier, which I was so nervous about. I'm pretty sure I was just nervous about this whole build, if we're being honest. But you see me placing those vines. I kind of like to scatter them around. I just feel like it's a little bit more natural if there is some space in between them. And it also leaves room for other items, but we'll go ahead and get the dirt path placed. I just wanted it to curve a little bit. I was very worried about not being able to use the large trees and the full-grown trees because I really wanted this area to feel like a little forest. When I used those trees, they ended up covering the top cliffs, and I just didn't enjoy that. I definitely wanted the mountains to kind of be the main focus, and the trees took away from that. So I had to improvise a little. I decided to stick with the medium cedar trees and then also use the decayed trees, which I didn't plan out all the way. I'm not gonna lie. I only had 4 of them, so we gotta work with what we have. We're gonna go ahead and mix in the other items we were using, like the mountain standees and the bushes and trees, to go ahead and fill in this area a little bit. I wanted it to be a little bit overgrown to give those woodsy vibes instead. And we're gonna start using some flowers down here. I know flowers are something that are really hard to use in winter. I'm not really sure what color scheme to go with, so for now I've just kind of been using white and red flowers, and I've been really enjoying them. I definitely want to branch out in the colors that I'm using later on, but for now we gotta stick with what we know looks good. And with this area being a little bit more natural, I felt like the white flowers might be best. And now we're going to start mixing in some of the rock items. I wanted to use the rocks on the mountains, but I just didn't find the room for them. But I do feel like they add a lot to the area and look really good. We'll go ahead and start placing down some of the snow pathing underneath to fill in the area like we were before, but I decided to spread it out a little bit more. That way we can put multiple items on it. Go ahead and start sprinkling in some of the moss and the weeds because I wasn't really sure what to do with this area. So I was just testing things out, trying to blend the area that I had already done so far into the rest. And then we'll go ahead and place down another tree. I like it. So I think it's time to go ahead and kind of start creating or recreating something similar on the other side. We're gonna go ahead and get a few bushes and some more items to sprinkle in here. I'm still trying to blend the area from like the cliffs on in, and it's a little bit challenging, and I'm trying to figure out what other items I could use to do so. We're gonna go ahead and start placing some flowers in. Again, just sticking with the white flowers and get a little view, and I definitely like how it's turning out so far. I do realize though that all of the trees look exactly the same because they are. So I decided to go ahead and turn them each to have their own different angle just so they look like different trees when you look at them. Go ahead and sprinkle in our little cedar trees, of course, to continue on with those little woods vibes. We'll run around and figure out what to do. I tried using a street lamp. I don't think it's gonna stay, but I gotta try something. I was trying to figure out kind of how to blend the cabin with the items next to it, and that's one thing that I wanted to try. Then I started thinking about how I wanted to blend the pathing into the rest of the areas, and I kind of thought that may be the best area to work in. So I had the idea of putting like flowers and bushes, but I wanted something to place them around. So I decided to go ahead and place some full-grown trees, and we can go ahead and chop them down to get some stumps. Stumps are always so cute, and I always forget to use them. So I'm really happy with how they look, and I'm so glad that I thought of them. And then we're gonna go ahead and place the bushes and flowers around like I said. I did try using the glowing moss boulder, which I think is super cute, but it just felt like the wrong color for me personally. I wonder if it would look better at nighttime, if it would blend in with the snow a little bit more. We're just going to continue filling in the area, placing down the snow cones underneath the items that we want to use, especially the trees, and use some more bushes to blend in the areas. I was dying to use this birdhouse. I thought it'd be super cute, so we're doing it. I didn't know if this spot was going to work, so I hope it does because I keep it there the whole time. Okay, let's see how things are looking. I noticed that this area on the right felt a little bit too full and I didn't like it. So we're gonna go ahead and remove that bush and place a little weed there instead. And it kind of breaks up the two mountain standees from each other. Instead of having that bush in between, they all kind of blended together, and that was just a bit too much for me. We'll go ahead and get a little look at the view so far and see if we're liking how things are turning out. I ran over my flowers, so we had to replace that. And we're just going to sprinkle in some other flowers and the moss. And then we're going to go ahead and move the stump. Just pretend like I didn't put it in the wrong spot. I felt like it looked a little bit better over to the right, so I wanted to go ahead and move it. And we'll go ahead and start decorating around the stump like we did on the other side. We got to pick up our tree and put the pathing down underneath. Now we're just going to get a little look at things and see how things are going right now. I was trying to figure out what direction I wanted to go in next, so you see me try out a few different things. I thought this sign was super cute, but the placement didn't feel right, so you'll see me kind of move that around and see what else I can do. And now I'm just trying to fill in that little area to the right there. So I decided to go ahead and put in another tree. We gotta keep adding to that foresty feeling. And now we'll go back over to the left side. As you see, I started terraforming one single little spot. But I decided that I wanted a tree placed down, so I went ahead and did that first. That way we could work around the tree instead of having to worry about it. And now let's get to waterscaping. It's been a little bit since I've done any terraforming, so I'm gonna need you to ignore my struggles. We're gonna go ahead and make a tiny little pond. Waterscaping is something I've always enjoyed. I just love how you can curve the water and how it looks. So I'm really happy to be able to include some waterscaping into this build and to be decorating on an island that has terraforming again. But I thought that little pond kind of filled in the area perfectly instead of me worrying about how to put a bunch of different items in a spot when I wasn't really sure what to do. I feel like all the items work really well around the pond, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out. We're gonna try and figure out what all we can do to place some items around the inn. I was determined to use the garden wagon. I really thought about calling rescue services to place it, but I resisted and decided to be a little bit more sensible and just place down a little barrel and some log stakes. And definitely didn't try and use it again. Give up as well. It just didn't fit the vibes. I'll find somewhere else to use it. It's okay. But I did decide that this area needed something a little bit more, so I decided to go ahead and put a tree down over here, but that means some things may need to change. We went ahead and moved over that standee and placed the fruit tree, but as you see, we cannot fit our little cedar tree because of the mountain. So we're gonna go ahead and tear down that piece of the cliff and get our tree placed down. And we're gonna leave that for a little bit and try and figure out what we want to put over here. I realized that you cannot get on the sleigh unless you stand from the front, so we had to pull it back a little bit, and we're just gonna put down some bushes and some weeds around the pond. And then I decided to use the little bunny decorations. Oh my gosh, these bunnies are adorable. They're a little big, but we're just gonna have to work with it. I thought the gray and white ones were super cute for winter and kind of matched the colors I already had going on. Let's go ahead and add some more of the snow and get our bunny into its little home, and then try and refill in this area around here. I decided I didn't like how the green mum looks, and we'll just find somewhere else to use it. And then I also came back over here to try and fill in this cliff with some vines, and then I realized that it would probably make more sense just to, you know, curve the cliff. So we'll just tear it down and put the vines back up. But now that we've got that figured out, we got our tree back in place and things are coming together. We just got to do some final details of some moss and the weeds just to fill in all those tiles also, so nothing can spawn back there like fossils or anything. And it really fills in the area just in case anybody does try and see it from those angles. We got some different flowers in here. And the villagers are starting to explore. I hope they love these areas. They make me so happy. And then we're gonna go ahead, and it seems like the bottom part is about done. So we're gonna start blending in the sides. I'm only gonna show you a little bit just to give you an idea of how I would blend it in, but I don't know what exactly is going to be surrounding here right now. So I am not totally set on what I'm doing, but I did know I just kind of wanted to continue the mountains and the trees and just bring them forwards and try to continue to create that little closed-in feeling. So I'll go back over to the right side, get a few things placed, and then get some trees, and we'll continue to place the larger trees on the outside to blend in later on, except for right there because it was blocking our entire volcano, of course. I decided to go ahead and get a little view of it to see how it does look just from different angles, and then decided all this area really needed was some moss and weeds, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Just fill in things with the items that you enjoy, and those are definitely some of my favorite items right now. and I decided to go ahead and start working on this little viewpoint. I decided to put down the little snowy spot to kind of indicate that you should go ahead and stand there, and we're gonna put down some bushes and go ahead and get some fencing. You see that there are villager houses here, and these are like the permanent spots for these houses. This is going to be Nan and Chevrolet's home. So I decided to go ahead with the fencing and kind of create like this is their yard, and then it leads into the forest behind there. We're just going to use some of the natural items to try and fill in this area. We got lots of bushes and flowers, and then a log bench. And of course, we just put down some more of the snow pathing. Oh my goodness. This pathing honestly makes me so happy. But I'm really enjoying how this area looks now that it is filled in. Oh my goodness. So let's continue on and just sprinkle in some more weeds and flowers and moss just to fill in this area a little bit. Oh my goodness, that poor green mom is never gonna make it, is it? But yeah, that's a little bit of how I would fill in the sides. Let's take a little walk up to the cabin. Oh my goodness, I really enjoy how this looks, and I guess from first person, it definitely looks like the trees are a lot bigger than they really are. Here is the finished product. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing or leaving a like. Bye bye.